Cryptozoology, in a nutshell, is the study of creatures that have yet to be proven real or existing. A real tough field to specialize in, considering that it's estimated that less than 10% of the Earth's living creatures have been discovered and studied. Cryptozoologists have often been relegated to the fringes of science, but their work has been proven vital in the past. Many mythical animals have been proven to be real due to their hard work. And here are but some of them. Here are 15 mythical creatures that actually exist in real life. Mermaids. Mermaids are one of, if not the most popular, mythical creature on Earth. Accounts of seafarers encountering these half-human, half-fish denizens of the deep, often with disastrous consequences, have been reported and documented as early as ancient Greece. Although these malevolent creatures of the ocean have long been banished into the realms of our imaginations, who knew that real mermaids actually exist? The condition is called Cyronomelia simpus dippus, or mermaid syndrome.
I'm a mermaid!
It's a rare and often fatal congenital condition involving the fusion of the lower extremities, thus giving the appearance of having a fishtail instead of legs and feet. It affects 1 in every 100,000 births every year, but the surprising thing is that males are more prone to the condition than females. Most children born with this condition only last a few hours. However, there are notable exceptions. Tiffany Yorks holds the distinction of surviving the longest despite her fatal condition. She was born in 1988 and died in 2016 at the age of 27. The Chupacabra. The tales of the chupacabra first emerged in Puerto Rico in the late 1990s. They described it as a bipedal creature 4 or 5 feet tall with large eyes, spikes down its back, and large claws.
Despicable chupacabra. And this time, it's alive.
This beast, people claimed, was responsible for killing and draining the blood of livestock, an act that earned it its name, which is Spanish for goatsucker. The existence of this mythical creature is still under debate, but one can't discount the numerous sightings, especially from credible sources, which makes the discussion lean towards these creatures actually being real. Then recently, people not only presented first-hand stories, some of them started producing actual specimens. When actual bodies are involved, people get excited, but most of them are just cases of mistaken identities. DNA tests conducted on these supposed chupacabras turned up unremarkable results. All have been identified as coyotes, dogs, and even raccoons, but no chupacabra. But why were they mistaken as something else? It's because all of these animals suffered from sarcoptic mange, which made them lose all their hair and make their skin look scaly in appearance, the standard description of the chupacabra. We may never know the identity of the animals who sucked out the blood of goats all those years ago, but we now have a plausible explanation for the sightings. The Saiga antelope. What do you get when you cross an antelope with an elephant? Something that looks unnatural and can only be found in stories and legends. But there is a real animal that perfectly fits that description. Looking like a deer that desperately wants to be an elephant, Saiga antelopes are one of the most ancient mammals, having shared the earth with saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths. At the time, Saiga inhabited a vast territory, ranging from the British Isles to Alaska.
The Saiga is an antelope that looks like it's straight out of Star Wars.
Immense herds of Saiga, numbering in the tens of thousands, once roamed the steep landscape. This evolutionarily unique animal, the only species of the genus Saiga, has cultural and historical significance for the people of Central Asia as a symbol of the traditional nomadic lifestyle. Although they have survived for millennia, these animals face extinction today. In the spring of 2015, 200,000 Saiga antelope perished during the mass die-off in Kazakhstan due to hemorrhagic septicemia, or fatal blood poisoning, which was caused by Pasteurella multocida type B bacteria, which lived and multiplied in their noses. Who knew that the thing that made them so unique would also be the cause of their downfall? Unicorns. Perhaps the earliest account of unicorns is by well-known Greek historian Ctesias, who described a large animal with a horn on its forehead in India. Although there still exists the possibility that he just saw a rhino from a distance and when he squinted, thought it was a horse with a horn on its head. But fossils unearthed in Siberia may have proven the existence of this mythical creature. Called the Siberian unicorn, it was 6 feet tall, over 13 feet long, and weighed more than 4 tons. It was covered in a shaggy coat and earned its nickname from the huge horn that grew out of its forehead. Yes, it doesn't quite resemble the classic unicorn that we all know and love, but so far, this is the closest to the real one that we can get. They were believed to have died out over 350,000 years ago, but a discovery of a fossil in Kazakhstan changed all that. Carbon dating test revealed the fossil to be only 29,000 years old. This means that the animal roamed the earth 321,000 years longer than previously thought. The Okapi. Central African tribes and ancient Egyptians described and depicted a bizarre creature for centuries, colloquially dubbed the African unicorn by Europeans. It's known locally by such names as the Ati or the Oapi, resembling a cross between a zebra, a donkey, and a giraffe. Despite descriptions from explorers and even skins, Western science rejected the existence of such a creature, viewing it as nothing more than sewn-together parts of very real animals. Add to that the fact that there were numerous expeditions to find it, it would seem the African unicorn was just as mythical as its namesake. This changed in 1901 when Sir Harry Johnston obtained pieces of striped skin and even a skull of the legendary beast. Through the evidence and the eventual capture of a live specimen, the animal now known as the okapi was recognized by mainstream science. The okapi is no less unusual today. It is the only living relative of the giraffe, sharing a similar body structure and its characteristic long blue tongue. However, the markings on its back legs resemble that of a zebra's stripes. They are extremely solitary creatures that remain captivating to scientists. Although not endangered, there is still much to learn about their habits and lifestyle. Vampires. A vampire is a being from folklore who subsists by feeding on the life essence, generally in the form of blood, of the living. In European folklore, vampires were undead beings that often visited loved ones and caused mischief or deaths in the neighborhoods they inhabited when they were alive. They wore shrouds and were often described as bloated and of ruddy or dark countenance, markedly different from how we imagine them today, gaunt and pale. However, due to the willingness of people to embrace alternative lifestyles, vampires no longer exclusively inhabit the realms of folklore. They walk among us, dress like us, talk like us, but with one key difference: the taste for blood. People like Don Henry, also known as the Vampire Don, live the vampire lifestyle. But thankfully not the murderous bloodlust part, just the blood-drinking part.
We're quite mature with what we do.
In fact, Henry was the first modern vampire to appear on national TV and the first to televise a bloodletting, which is the modern-day equivalent of a vampire feeding. The Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Monster, also known by the nickname Nessie, is probably the creature that most often leaps to mind when ordinary people think about cryptozoology, the study of animals that may or may not exist. Nessie is virtually a symbol of cryptozoology. Witnesses tend to describe the animal with sleek, rubbery, blackish-gray skin about 20 feet long. Nessie usually has the serpentine body that is typical for sea serpents and lake monsters, furnished with humps along its length and one or more sets of paddles. Does the description sound familiar to you? Well, it should, as that it is also the description of a plesiosaur. Plesiosaurs were marine reptiles that lived during the time of the dinosaurs. There were many different types in all shapes and sizes. The ones we are familiar with are the long-necked, big-bodied animals with the flippers. Many have speculated that a species of plesiosaur has somehow survived and inhabited various deep lakes in different parts of the world. This is one theory that allegedly explains the Loch Ness Monster. Because Loch Ness is connected to the ocean, the story goes that a population of plesiosaurs somehow escaped from the sea and into the confines of the lake. The Cyclops. In Greek mythology, the Cyclopses were giant creatures that were unmistakable in their appearance, sporting a single eye in the center of each of their heads. They were also known for their barbarity, afraid neither of men nor gods. The most famous Cyclops was Polyphemus, which attacked Odysseus in a cave and ate half of his men. Odysseus blinded the Cyclops by running a wooden stake through his single eye. Then Odysseus and his men escaped by tying themselves to the undersides of sheep. For many years, there appeared to be solid proof that these one-eyed monsters really existed. Quite a few huge skulls were found, which appeared to have a single eye socket in the middle of their forehead. It turns out that the skulls belonged to dwarf elephants. The eye socket was the central nasal cavity and the opening for the elephant's trunk. Many dwarf elephant skulls have been found in Cyprus, especially in caves where the Cyclopses were supposed to have lived. Hobbits. If you're even barely into pop culture, you'd know what a hobbit is. They're basically miniature humans who have furry feet and don't wear shoes, and, according to stories, have a propensity to save the world from evil pieces of jewelry. What you might not know is the fact that actual hobbits did exist, but not quite the ones you've gotten to know and love. In 2003, archaeologists found the remains of a 3-foot-tall adult female in a cave on an Indonesian island. At first, there was speculation that the skeleton was a person with microencephalia, a medical condition that causes short stature. A comparison of the skull with modern microcephalics, though, seemed to suggest it came from a typical healthy individual. There were also other indications that these were the bones of an unknown species, such as extremely primitive feet, though scientists failed to determine if they were particularly hairy feet, which is a disappointment. They are now called Homo floresiensis, and so far, fossils have only been found on the island of Flores in Indonesia. The fossils have been dated to between 100,000 and 60,000 years ago, and stone tools made by these species date to between 190,000 and 50,000 years old. Their small stature is believed to be the result of island dwarfism, an evolutionary process that results from long-term isolation on a small island with limited food resources and a lack of predators. Sea serpents. Speaking of real creatures being mistaken for as sea monsters, we have the giant oarfish. Just by looking at one, you'll definitely understand the reason why. They're an absolutely massive fish, having been known to reach lengths up to 110 feet long. No wonder that ancient mariners who saw them told tales of sea serpents. Oarfish are typically found at depths of about 656 feet, but can lurk as deep as 3,280 feet. While biologists don't know why the giant fish came to shore, they suspect either they are washed toward beaches by storms or they come to the surface when they're injured or dying. In Japan, this species is traditionally known as Reigud Natsukai, or as Jinjahim, and is believed to be the serpent or messenger of the Dragon King, ruler of the sea. It is also believed that when an oarfish appears in shallow water, it's a warning that an earthquake or a tsunami is coming soon. Dragons. Believe it or not, the Komodo dragon was considered a mythical creature all the way up to 1910 when it was first discovered.
It looks like he's trying to regurgitate something.
Prior to that, rumors were spreading that 8-foot-long, 100-pound prehistoric lizards were living on a remote Indonesian island. Even way before that, legends of giants, fire-breathing dragons abound. But even these legends can be linked to the Komodo dragon, which is the largest living reptile today. For decades, people thought that these giant lizards kill by infecting their prey with bacteria. You see, dental hygiene really isn't one of their top priorities, so last week's meal remnants are most definitely still in their mouths. Its mouth is a Shangri-La for deadly bacteria, and the dragon transmits them to other creatures with their bites. Also, it had just recently been discovered that Komodo dragons are venomous, and it's actually the venom that kills its prey. Many speculate that the venomous bacteria-filled bite of the Komodo dragon is what gave rise to the fire-breathing dragons of legend. The Kraken. One of the main villains of Nordic folklore, the Kraken, was said to be a powerful monster, strong enough to drag an entire ship to the depths by wrapping its gigantic tentacles around the vessel or by swimming in circles around it to create a whirlpool that would drag the ship down. It was first written about in 1180, and there were many accounts of gigantic tentacled sea monsters dragging ships to their doom. The Kraken was said to be able to devour an entire ship's crew in a single mouthful. There are two candidates for being the source of Kraken stories. One is a species of the giant squid, or Architeuthis ducks, which can grow to around 59 feet long, or possibly the Colossus squid, or Mesonychithyetis hamiltoni, which is significantly larger than the giant squid and can grow to unknown lengths. Very few of these animals have ever been found intact as they live in the deep waters of the Arctic. For this reason, it has proved very difficult to find evidence of how these monsters attack their prey. Some recent research does show that they encircle prey with their tentacles before pulling it into their beak-like mouths, so you never know. The narwhal. When people saw the Siberian narwhal, they thought they saw a horse that has a single horn on its head. Of course, people will naturally try and prove the veracity of such sightings, and they did when they found unicorn horns, or rather what they thought were unicorn horns.
It's a horn, but it's not. It's a tooth, isn't it? And
What they found were actually tusks, which belongs to a very unique animal that can pass for a mythical creature any day. The narwhal is often called the unicorn of the sea. These legendary animals have 2 teeth. In males, the more prominent tooth grows into a sword-like spiral tusk up to 10 feet long. The ivory tusk tooth grows right through the narwhal's upper lip. Scientists are not certain of the tusk's purpose, but some believe it's prominent in mating rituals, perhaps used to impress females or to battle rival suitors. Females sometimes grow a small tusk of their own, but it doesn't become as prominent as the males. Inuit people hunt the narwhal for their long tusk and their skin, an important source of vitamin C in the traditional Arctic diet. The red ukari. South Americans reputedly nicknamed the poor bald monkey Mono Anglais, or English monkey, in honor of the first sunburnt Britons to visit their homeland. Whether or not that's myth or reality, the red ukari's scarlet pate does resemble that of a holidaymaker who has fallen asleep in the sun. During the rainy season, this vulnerable species lives high in the treetops of the Amazon River basin, but retreats closer to the ground in the dry season to forage for nuts and seeds. It's most easily recognized by its red face and bald head, from which it derives its name. Some people compare them to old men and babies because of their baldness. There's no denying this species is uniquely handsome. The striking crimson color is caused by blood flow beneath the skin, specifically a thinner epidermis coupled with a higher concentration of capillaries in the face. The redness of a female's face is correlated with her estrogen levels. The redness of a male's face is indirectly related to his testosterone levels. According to a recent study, a redder face indicates a healthier monkey, since their faces, like ours, grow pale when they're ill, particularly with malaria, which is rampant in their habitat. Superb bird of paradise. There are many birds of legend. Native Americans tell tales of the thunderbird, a large bird capable of carrying off cattle. And of course, we also have the legendary phoenix, a bird that bursts into flames when they die, only to be reborn from its own ashes. Like many animals of legend, it's almost always that they're based on a real animal. It's not hard to imagine, especially if you encounter this magnificent bird. The superb bird of paradise is a small bird, approximately just 10 inches in length, definitely smaller than other birds of legend, but it makes up for it with sheer looks and amazing behaviors. You see, these birds' feathers have some of the darkest black pigment in the world, blacker than even many man-made pigments. Males have an elaborate courtship ritual during which they spread out their black cape until only a bright blue breastplate and blue eyes are visible in an all-absorbing blackness. Then he puts on a dance, moving around a female in semicircle motions until she's wooed.
And when the males perform their dances for a female, the Vogelkop form circles with a quick, gliding sidestep.
Watch a video of this bird in action and you'll definitely be treated to something otherworldly.